Hello, my name's Megan Beaker, and this is my case study for AEP 855, When Ethics and Policy Collide. Section 1 talks about the facts. So we meet Richard Inman. He's the assistant principal at Rocket Junior High School, and he is faced with an ethical dilemma. So one of his students, who he has a good relationship with, James, admits to forcing David, another student that Mr. Inman is not very familiar with because he hasn't seen him in the office much, to hold his brass knuckles for him, or James would, in his words, kick his or David's ass. The school police officer keeps them cuffed and sides with the school policy. Both students must be charged with a felony possession of prohibited weapon on school property. There's also a zero-tolerance board policy which demands both students should be expelled for no less than 45 days into the district's Disciplinary Alternative Education Program, or DAEP. Mr. Inman knows that James has been down this path before, but he's a little unsure about what to do with David. Section 2 talks about the ethical and the legal issues. So here are some items to consider. Technically, no one has been physically harmed by this particular weapon. However, this expulsion could ruin David's reputation and future. The policy states that anyone who possesses an illegal weapon is guilty via a board-initiated zero-tolerance policy. However, it's important to note that district policy is not always law. Filing for James, but not for David, could be seen as an act of discrimination, though James owned up to the incident and admitted his fault. And it also could be seen that James is bullying or threatening David into holding the weapon for him, which I guess could cause some issues. So basically, in Section 3, Mr. Inman has to choose between following a severe board-issue zero-tolerance policy or to stand up for one of his students who is a victim in a situation that he did not initiate. Section 4 is a kind of a synthesis of the facts. So we need to know a little bit about the people. We have Richard Inman. He's the assistant principal at Rocket Junior High School. We have James. He's described as muscular and kind of an intimidating student who frequently acts up, but he's the leader of his group. David, who is slightly billed. He's a quiet honor student who has never been sent to the office for anything. We also have the police officer who opts to arrest both students as they are both seen as guilty based on the policy. And then we have the director of secondary education who contacts Mr. Inman later on in the story or in the scenario. This director understands but encourages Mr. Inman to file or to be officially reprimanded. We also have the place. It takes place at Rocket Junior High School. There are 900 students at Rocket Junior High School. For the demographics, there wasn't much said other than there were some kids from the south side, which is technically supposed to be the rough part of town where this school could possibly be located. So it's possibly urban, and it seems like it's a public school to me. For example, they have a full-time police officer employed by the school. So to me, that would say that maybe it's a little bit rougher neighborhood. The teacher believed it could be drugs. So drugs could be an issue at Rocket Junior High School. She kind of said that there was an exchange in the hallway and she thought that perhaps it could have been drugs or related to drugs. Then Section 4, talking a little bit about the programs. The big policy or the big program in all of this is the zero tolerance board policy, which outlines possession of a prohibited weapon on school property will result in going to jail, a felony of possession, and expulsion for no less than 45 days into the district's Disciplinary Alternative Education Program. So Section 5, we need to kind of review and prioritize. So there's concern that there could be backlash from community members. So one thing that kind of popped into my head was, has this kind of situation happened before where the zero tolerance policy was overlooked or excused by administration? Important stake in the outcome, the people that kind of have an important stake in the outcome are definitely the Board of Education. They put in a zero tolerance policy for a reason, so maybe there's been problems before. David, again, I talked about this, but this could ruin his reputation, his future, his dreams. He's a student that works really hard and has never made this kind of mistake before, been in this kind of trouble before. And then we have Mr. Inman. If he doesn't file, he will be officially reprimanded with a note in his file. Have all the stakeholders been consulted? One thing that Mr. Inman could do is stand up for David at a board of education meeting or visit with board of education members about this issue and about his concerns. The other question is, do I know enough to make a decision? I do think the answer is yes. I think the situation in some ways is clear cut. I mean, James did own up to owning the brass knuckles and making David hold them for him by intimidating him and threatening him. Section 6 talks about the options and the possible consequences. So option 1, don't worry about David. Do what the director wants you to do. Maybe they'll overlook this incident for David in the future. Another option would be to stick to my decision and don't file the report, or stand up for David and even consider trying to get James out of this situation. Then there's option 3, stick with my decision to defend David and don't file the report. But some things that I might do to help support that is look for handbook information about bullying to defend David. Stand up for David at a Board of Education meeting stating facts in an executive session. Take the official reprimand and deal with the potential consequences. And if they no longer want me, if I were Mr. Inman at Rocket Junior High School for defending a student, I would be at peace with defending an innocent student and no longer working there. So section 7, evaluate options. So option 1 to me seems like an unethical choice. My job is to be there for my students and not for the Board of Education. So I don't think option 1 is really a good choice. Option 2 kind of seems excessive. I mean, James did admit to the incident, so he should definitely, I feel, be punished, or he should see that his actions have consequences. Now, option 3, stick with my decision to defend David and don't file a report. I think the best options in this, definitely looking at handbook information, trying to find a way to, I guess, I don't want to say excuse David, but to defend him. He was kind of a victim in all of this. So it might be one of those things that I just have to take the official reprimand and just deal with the potential consequences of the incident. So section 8, the best option. I really think option 3, sticking with my decision to defend David and don't file the report, is my best option. I know that nobody wants to be written up. Nobody wants to rock the boat, but I think that in this situation, for David's sake, it's so important that we stand up for him. And I'm kind of becoming of the mindset that if a place that I work doesn't meet up with my ethical standards and my morals and my values, I definitely don't want to work there. And if something feels icky and doesn't feel right to me, like being forced to file this report on David's behalf, I don't think that I could work for this organization, and I think it's time for me to move forward. So, of course, I have to think about what implementing this decision would do. So, my choice would be that I've chosen not to file the expulsion papers for David. I will willingly accept the official reprimand from our Director of Secondary Education. If possible, I will try to file a rebuttal with my explanation of the situation, which will also be on file with the reprimand document in my file, so long as the school will allow that. With the Board of Education members, students and other parents may find out and they may become upset and say that I show bias to David, especially if this happened to them or their children. I will talk to David and strongly encourage him to inform someone if bullying and threatening behavior continues to occur, as I may not be able to defend him again, or I may not be able to make the same decision. And if the board decides that I'm no longer a good fit at Rocket Junior High School due to this incident, I guess I'll walk away with my head held high, knowing that I did all I could to support and defend my students. My dad's been a long time building administrator, and I really look up to him. And, he said, why would I want to stay anywhere where they don't want me to be there. And I think that's the approach that a lot of teachers and even people that work within businesses need to understand, that if they're not valued and if the rules and stipulations put in place aren't aligning with their moral compass, their ethical values, the things that are important to them, it's time to move on and try to find greener pastures and just accept the decision. So I think in this decision, it's right to defend David, and I will deal with the consequences as they come. So I've really enjoyed this class. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Bye-bye.